You know, I love to go out to dinner to, you know, different ethnic restaurants and things like that, you know, Mexican food or Japanese food or Chinese food. But, you know, when it comes down to it, I do love just that steak and potatoes, maybe a salad and a chocolate dessert. And, you know, in fact, it's really funny. There's, you know, I've heard, you know, different interviews with different chefs, you know, top chefs, and they always say when they go out for dinner with their wife, they'll go to like a steakhouse or get prime rib and potato. So I guess it's, you know, kind of a universal thing. There's just something, I don't know, there's nothing better sometimes. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little onion in this scalloped potatoes. Now you wouldn't have to, but this is just going to add some nice flavor. So I'm melting a little bit of butter into a skillet, and I've got one yellow onion, or like a sweet Vidalia onion would be wonderful. And I just want to cook this. I don't really want to get it brown. I just want to cook it till it softens up and gets a little bit sweet. If you don't do onion, or the kids don't do onion, you could leave it out. But today is about indulging ourselves, and I really like the little bit of onion in here. Add some great flavor. If Ann were making this, Ann doesn't do onion at home, she'd leave the onion out. So Ann, that's all right. You can leave the onion out.
Onion powder.
Or oh, there you go. You could do onion powder, or you know what? Mince the onion. Just take a raw onion and use the, you know, like a microplane or the back of a cheese grater, and just grate it up really fine, and you'll get some onion flavor in there without any bits of onion. Although this is going to be pretty sweet, so I think we're going to be okay. Now, in another pan, I want to heat together 3/4 cup equal parts of heavy cream. Yes, there's something about heavy cream and potatoes that really makes them wonderful. And then 3/4 cup of chicken stock. So we're going to heat that together. Once I can get the carton of heavy cream open, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. There you go, about 3/4 cup. And I just want to heat that till they come together. I don't really want to boil them, and we're going to get back to those guys in just a little bit. I just want these onions to start cooking and smelling wonderful. I think taking the time, sometimes instead of just doing baked potatoes with your steak, doing something like this just is that extra special thing. And the neat thing about this too, it bakes in a casserole. You could do one big casserole, but really want to be indulgent and, you know, indulge yourself. You can actually do bake them in individual ramekins, which is very, very much on trend. And I'm just going to look to see if we have one. I know we had a couple around here. Ann, any idea where? Well, here's one I want to show you. Okay, these are just so cool. You can pick these babies up very inexpensively, and they come in different sizes. This would be, you know, a real big potato casserole, probably for two, but to do your own little mini casserole and put your scalloped potatoes in one of these, pick up some of these, very, very cool, very, very on trend. So that's another thing that you could do to kind of, you know, especially if it's a date night, you really want to make it special, or if you've got, you know, a dinner party, to do, everybody gets their own little individual scalloped potato casserole. So just a thought there. Onions are starting to smell really good. I just want to season them with a little bit of salt and pepper. Now, unfortunately, this isn't too much of a make-ahead, because when it comes to raw potatoes, we're using about 5 raw potatoes. Unless you get them in, you know, you need to keep them in water, cold water, they're going to turn brown on you. So you could certainly, you know, have the onion sautéed, and you can have the cream and the chicken stock done. But when it comes to the potatoes, really peeling those, and you want to slice those up just before you're ready to throw this casserole together. Now I'm just going to, these happen to be baking potatoes, and I want to slice them up into real thin pieces. And if you use the baby reds, you actually wouldn't even have to peel them. Just wash them real well. All right, so Anne's got my potatoes all peeled for me. I'm gonna take a big bowl. Now, because we've let them soak in water here, I'm actually gonna take a paper towel and dry them off a little bit, because I don't want that water. I want this casserole to be really nice and rich, and I don't want that water to get into the recipe. All right. So get my potatoes in here. I just want to dry them off real well. One more to slice up. The recipe, as I said, calls for about 5 large baking potatoes, peeled and sliced, but just depends on the size of your potato. If your potatoes are a little littler, you may want to do 6, 7, 8. I'm going to check on my onions. I don't really want a lot of color. I just want them to get nice and soft. So I'm going to turn them down just a little bit. Nothing smells better than frying onions. Wow. So you like the smell of fried onions, Anne, but you don't like the taste of them. My cream and my chicken stock starting to heat up here. Oh, she likes the taste. You are picky. You are worse than my kids. She likes the onion taste, just doesn't like the texture. Okay. Just want to really dry those potatoes. And this is a very, very simple recipe, but I think the fact that it's so simple, but so rich and wonderful is what makes it so special. There's just a few ingredients. All right, I've got some fresh parsley. And again, we're using fresh because we're going to just, keep this recipe very simple but fresh. And this is fresh. Whenever you're cooking with parsley, you're putting it in a recipe, you don't want to use the curly parsley. You actually want to use the Italian, or it's also called flat leaf parsley. So you can see the leaves look a little bit different than the curly parsley, which is really just, the main thing for that is it's just supposed to kind of, the curly parsley, garnish a plate. You really shouldn't use that in recipes. It just doesn't have great flavor. Something they invented way back when, just to, when you're having a burger or a steak, they just put it on the plate to make it look pretty. So I just want to finely chop this parsley. And then we're going to start putting this whole thing together. No cheese in this, by the way. This is a scalloped potato. It's not a potato gratin, although this recipe is very similar. The only difference would be that in a potato gratin or au gratin, you'd add cheese. In this, we're just going to really have that great potato flavor and just a little bit of onion. And, of course, the heavy cream. Okay, time to start assembling this. And we're going to do it in one casserole. As I said, you could do it in these little individual casseroles, which would be really fun, very indulgent. Spray, spray, spray your casserole dish. And the first thing we're going to do is start layering. So we're going to throw some potatoes down. Real important to season these potatoes as we layer. And I use my hands kind of like a deck of cards. You want to spread them out. A little bit of salt and pepper. A little bit of this parsley. And a little bit of onion. If you choose. If you don't like the onion, you can leave it out. Okay, now we're going to do some more potato. And again, the best way I think to do this is just with your hands. Have nice clean hands. right, a little more salt and pepper. More of that parsley. A little more onion. And one more layer. And then we're going to take that cream mixture. I'm going to pour that right down over the top. It's real important that your potato slices are thin because we're doing raw potatoes here. So if they're too thick, they're not going to cook. So I saw a couple of these that were a little thick. Want to go for the thinner potatoes. All right, and a little more salt and pepper. Now we're going to take this heavy cream, combine with the chicken stock, and the starch from the potatoes is going to cook with this cream and chicken stock, and it'll thicken up a little bit. All right, so you don't want to stir it together, just keep it just as is. Parsley on top. And then you cover this with foil and get it into a preheated 350-degree oven for about 45 minutes. Then you want to uncover it and bake for another 20 to 30 minutes until those potatoes are fork tender and that top just gets a little bit brown. And you can even throw the broiler on if you're not getting the color that you'd like on top. So I wanted to show you how the ones in the oven have turned out. Great with steaks on the grill, even just wonderful with burgers or meatloaf. It's just a great way to dress up dinner and do something different than, you know, baked potatoes or mashed potatoes. Something a little indulgent, a little special. Okay, come back with me. We did put a cookie sheet or small pan with that casserole dish underneath just so we wouldn't have a boil over. And there you go. These are fantastic. My scalloped potatoes, one of my favorites. The recipe's on the website. You can also pick them up at any area Festival Foods.